Hello, my spiritual team. Please remember that you are not alone in your spiritual journey. So many people believe that they are, and so many people are feeling like they are completely isolated from the rest of the world and nobody understands them. And I just want to reassure you and promise you that you are not. You are not alone and everything is okay. If you want to learn how to completely connect into your own self through a spiritual journey, but do it with outcomes and community and the sense of belonging, please remember there are options out there for you. And if you want to join my Intuitive Mastery School, you can. And if you want to join something else, please do it because it's going to be the best thing that you've ever done. Please remember, you are not alone. You're listening to the Intuitive Mastery podcast. Hi, I'm kateconnolly, and with over 15 years of intuitive healing and teaching experience, I'm here to help you celebrate intuition and value authenticity to create a world where you have the freedom to live your best life. This podcast is here to teach you how to apply the principles of spirituality, healing, and mindset to have true and lasting joy, all from the inside out. This is the Intuitive Mastery podcast. Hello, my beautiful spiritual family. Welcome to my podcast this week. I was going to talk about intuitive eating because I started that last week, but I've decided to take a little bit of a detour today because I've had so many people talking to me about another theme, and that is the concept of feeling alone in their spiritual journey. And I will come back to intuitive eating at some point, but sometimes, my guides come in and they just give me this really strong awareness that actually people need something different. And this week, this is that. The concept that people on their spiritual journey typically are feeling completely and totally alone. And I'll talk to you about why that is and some of the examples, but also what we can do about it, because it can be a super, super lonely journey. And at the end of the day, a spiritual journey is actually within. It's going internally and learning about ourselves on a deeper level so that we can show up more consciously in our lives and consciously create joy, success, amazing relationships, whatever it is that our intentional purposes are. We can do that on a spiritual journey. But we get this misnomer that it has to be 100% individual, as in we need to do it alone and we need to do it in isolation of others. And I really just want to encourage you to think that there are so many other ways that we can do this in a way that you don't necessarily have to be isolated or alone. So a lot of people have the concept of, if I need help, I'm going to go and get therapy and I'm going to talk about it for years and I will get some resolution and maybe some change. And that can absolutely 100% happen. For a lot of people, they don't want to have therapy. They don't want to necessarily go and speak about all of their problems and get it all out there and do it completely alone, one-on-one with somebody. What they actually really want is to sit in community with people who understand, people who they can connect with, and also who have a similar purpose. Now, the purpose for me and in my Intuitive Mastery School and in my work is to help you realize that you are A, not alone, but B, we can actually have a spiritual ascension process happening on the planet, but we can do it together. And we can do that in a group where we have a desired outcome, i.e., learning, growing, and connecting as humans, creating and consciously manifesting the lives of our dreams, knowing that we have the sovereign right to do so, which is a very, very exciting thing. But also, it's so much more potent to do this in community. So one of the most powerful, I guess, scientists out there that's working in this realm, I would say, in my opinion, from what I know, is Joe Dispenza. And he's done a lot of experiments around people getting in communion with each other and meditating for a particular purpose or an outcome. And I think he's done some measurements to see what impact that would have. Now, one person meditating with a really strong purpose and outcome and intention is fantastic. But when you get a massive group of people doing it together, it's exponentially more powerful. You notice that when you go to any kind of gathering, whether it's, you know, any kind of spiritual ascension gathering, that could be from NLP to a Joe Dispenza to a meditation retreat to a breath work, whatever it is that you choose to do or that you really love. When you come together in a group of people, those processes just become super, super, super powerful, and the energy is potent enough to create massive change within you. And that is what we are missing in terms of our everyday life. We might go and have that, process happen once a year or once every 2 years when I can take a day off or a week off or a weekend off to go and do whatever course we're thinking about doing. But how many people have that on a daily or weekly basis? And this is what I want to kind of chat about, because if you look at, for example, Christian churches or any kind of religious kind of gatherings, the most potent thing about it, in my opinion, is the community. You show up and you have a whole bunch of people with a shared purpose and a shared intention connecting and spending time together. And I just want to emphasize that in spirituality, we don't really have any such thing. We might have a meditation group every now and then, or like I said, a breathwork workshop or some other workshop, or, one weekend every now and then. But in my opinion, we actually need to do this on a regular basis. We need to actually meet in community all the time and make sure that we love and nourish and cherish everybody that's trying their best in their life, everybody that's trying to show up consciously, everybody that's showing up in their lives from the perspective of, I don't know, wanting to better themselves, wanting to heal their wounds, wanting to step into conscious and loving relationships, wanting to understand themselves more deeply so they can get into a greater sense of self-love so they can show up in their worlds better. Learning how to deeply connect into trust and love your own intuition so that your decisions become effortless on a daily basis. This is the purpose of my life, people. This is what I want to do for you. I want everybody to be able to gather with their own spiritual journeys, but know that they are not alone and they can do it in a community where they are not only seen and heard, but loved for how they're showing up for themselves. We don't have to do this spiritual journey alone. It's certainly not necessary. Even though our journeys are internal, we all have very similar themes. We all have very similar things that we're trying to learn. How do we get our relationships better? How do we get the jobs that we want? How do we learn how to self-love and self-care in a way that isn't a constant self-bashing if we don't get it right? How can we show up in our intuition on a daily basis and do that with ease and grace so that our decisions and our lives and our jobs become this effortless process of tuning in and deciding, slowing down to speed up, calming down so we get into a new place of energetic alignment? And there's so much to this spiritual journey. It's not just how do I meditate and how do I forgive myself. There's just, there's a plethora of things involved, but it doesn't have to be complicated, and it absolutely does not have to be something that you need to spend years and years and years and years figuring out, because you can find people, find communities, and find groups that have a similar outcome and a similar purpose to you. And please do it with them, because it's just such a beautiful experience. And I'm not saying we necessarily have to build a church. I'm not a churchy person. This is not something that, that's not my purpose. It's not about having a deity that we need to actually start praying towards, because again, that's not what spirituality is about. Spirituality is about doing a deep dive into yourself and learning, loving, accepting, and fully embracing who you are as a person, embracing your sovereignty. And it's such a beautiful thing. So that's kind of not feeling alone in terms of a community, in terms of how you show up in the world. Speaking of which, if you do want to actually join my community, there is a link below, my Intuitive Mastery School. It's only $10 a week. It's super, super affordable. And the first 2 weeks is free if you want to jump on, join us live, get access to the whole library of stuff that I have there. There's so many things available, learning how to work through chakras and energy fields, and learning how to manifest, and learning how to calm your mind. There's so many different topics in there that you can dive in, and you can also dive into whatever we're dealing with on a weekly basis. At the moment, we're dealing with relationships, but by the time you listen to this, it could be something else. So outside of that, we have, how do we not feel alone on a spiritual level? And even though we are going through our spiritual journeys, so often we forget to tune into our spiritual team. We have a higher self, which is constantly guiding us and almost being like a medium between our lower self, our bodies, and source energy. Our higher self guides us. It is the closest thing that we have to like a godlike connection. And listening to our higher self is actually one of the most potent things that we can do. So our higher self also kind of sits in the fifth dimension. So the fifth dimension is kind of a level of awareness and a level of vibration that is a higher level of vibration that we currently live in on planet Earth. So we currently live in a 3D situation, which is really kind of connecting just into the five senses. So smell, taste, touch, hearing, and vision. No, I don't know. There's five. The five senses, right? But when we shift into the fifth dimension, we are now shifting into a whole different level of being. We become more vibrational, so we become more light-based rather than 3D carbon-based in our DNA, so our DNA levels change. But we also are much more connected into our psychic awarenesses. So all of our psychic senses are much more heightened in the 5D, and all of our energies are actually much more aligned with a creating our intention to create our reality moment by moment by moment by moment. So that's more of a 5D energy. There's probably a lot more I could teach you on that, but that's not the purpose of this podcast. But when we move from the third to the fifth dimension, we usually tend to sit in a lot more intentional harmony with our bodies and our lives and our relationships. And our higher self is much more aligned with that 5D level of being than the 3D level of being. So if we can actually learn to kind of trust and listen and connect into our higher self, then by definition, we are going to be more calm, we're going to be more relaxed, and we're going to be more in harmony with ourselves. If we do nothing in our spiritual journey but learn how to connect to our higher self, that is amazing. But we also have more people in our spiritual team. We have guides, we have angels, we have guardians, we have different people that come in and out of our experience. We can go and tune into and connect to past people who have passed over in our ancestry for advice. We are never, ever, ever alone. We are constantly being bombarded with messages and information and support and love from our spiritual team or our unseen team, right? And this unseen team is this very powerful, on the other side of the veil, group of individuals that want nothing more than our success. And sometimes they're almost like screaming at us from one dimension to another, trying to get our attention so that we can actually pay attention, listen, and do something different. So if we can intentionally connect in and speak to them on a regular basis, or just even call in for support, all of a sudden we can just have this flood. And I've experienced this like hundreds of times, this flood of love and energy and support. And all of a sudden, we know without a moment of hesitation that we are 100% supported and we are 100% not alone. And if we can learn to kind of connect into them on a regular basis, then we can absolutely be assured that on any moment of any day for any reason, we can call on that support. We have our own spiritual team, our unseen team. Plus, you can call on any number of other angels if that's something that you enjoy or if that's something that resonates with you. You can tune into ascended masters. There are ascended masters that are phenomenally powerful. They are things like that. They are people like Mother Mary, Kuan Yin, White Buffalo Woman, Green Tara. There's a whole bunch of different ascended masters that you could tune into. There are a whole bunch of archangelics that you can ask for help. Archangel Michael, Archangel Raphael, Gabriel, Uriel, Sandalphon, Metatron. That's just a few on either side. If you do that kind of study and you want to go into that it's fantastic. You can kind of ask at any time for support from any of those people and really get some information or get some serious energetic support on a regular basis. And calling all of those people in just feels more and more and more and more like you are being held, like you are part of a community, and that you, by any stretch of the imagination, can always call on this and feel that love and support. And if we get into the habit of doing something like that on a regular basis, and if for the most part we can learn how to step out of this feeling of alone just by doing those spiritual practices and by joining communities in the 3D that help us feel supported and loved, imagine how different your world would feel. If you, on a regular basis, typically feel completely alone and isolated from other people, but you knew that every single week you could tune in and connect in with a group or a community of like-minded individuals and call on your spiritual team or call on energetic support from wherever you ask for, bearing in mind that if you are not really practiced in this, it is probably good to get some instruction. Because if you do it without instruction, sometimes we can call on energies that are not super awesome for us, and that can be a little bit dangerous. So I just want to kind of pop that in there because it's not always super easy to just call on energies and have really good stuff coming in. But the point is, you aren't alone. If you want to learn how to do this, you can join my group or any other group that resonates with you. But there are people out there. Just jump on and Google like intuitive groups or meditation groups, or find something online or find something in your community and create your own community. It does not have to be a specific, rigid church structure, even though I have full respect for that and everyone has their choices to do that if that works for them. It can be something that sits in your own paradigm and your own sense of beliefs and where you want to be. But I do promise you that you will find somewhere, because there are many, many places out there. And if you can find something to set up every single day or every single week where you know that you can kind of keep tuning in and keep getting that connection, then anything is possible. You really need to remember that the universe has your back. And if you want it and if you ask for it, you will be supported. So I hope that's really helpful. If you want to get more information, just click on any of my links below. I have loads and loads of information on how to tune in. If you're new to meditation, there are millions of free meditations out there online. You can check out my YouTube channel or any other person's YouTube channel, really, if you find a meditation person that really resonates with you. But just remember, you don't have to do it alone. If you're feeling like meditations are just not enough for you and you really want to connect in with a group of people, find one, because they are out there. Thank you so much for listening. My name is Kateconnolly, and I will see you again soon.